Who is the greatest coach in the NHL? Greetings, programs. Today's video is my custom EA NHL 25 coaches roster, not players, not goalies. This came into fruition the past week when I worked on it because EA NHL has decided for the first time in how many years, I think it was like NHL 2004, there were still coaches in the game. I may be wrong, but now we have coaches in the NHL games. Again, they've had coaches in every other game like Madden and stuff, so it's really cool that they did this, but I do not agree with the ratings that they have. So the past week I worked on a spreadsheet making my own statistics and analytics into the game via the coaches. So you do not have the ability so far to edit the coaches as far as ratings go, but hopefully in the future they do, and we can do that. But for now, I'm just going to show off my ratings and see where everybody is. So to answer the question, there is no necessary one best coach right now. I have actually displayed it into the tier system. So you have here Bruce Cassidy, Rod Brindamore, and Sheldon Keefe are your top coaches. This is including all the way back to 2007, and I do include a full career for the ratings, not just a 3-year base, because I feel like it'd be more fair, especially coaches like John Tortorella. And even him, I feel like his tier should be a little bit higher because he's won a Stanley Cup 2004. This only went to 2007. So here are the tiers. So those are your top 3 coaches. So Bruce Cassidy won the Stanley Cup with Vegas in 2023. He has a fantastic offense defense rating. His best is the teaching. Now here is something, if you are an NHL player or former pro player watching this, I highly doubt it, but there is one self-criticism that I have. I could possibly switch the teaching than influence. Obviously I never played pro. I don't know if one of these is more accurate than the other, but I can kind of see them flipping a little bit. So teaching could be influence, influence could be teaching. And also, if you see these numbers here, I had to assign a number to the letter grade. In a spreadsheet, you really can't just like use formulas with letters. So I did it like 0 through 12 for the letter grades. So that's what these numbers are over here for. So I have everything here on the left. These may be wrong, these may be right, but for the actual roster itself, they have teaching specialties for the coaches, scheme fits or scheme fits, however you want to pronounce it, coaching style, and then age. Obviously some of these may be right, some of these may be wrong, but I actually did not use EAs. I just used myself and I did my own ratings. If you also see here on the left hand side, their actual names, if they have like a little yellow or gold highlight, that means they have won a Stanley Cup championship. And if you have noticed here, I'm going to go about halfway through the spreadsheet. You see John Tortorella here. He is the lowest rated Stanley Cup winning coach, but again, I already said Torts, his whole career is not included with this. He is missing about, I want to say at least 3 or 4 winning seasons, maybe like 2 or 3 middling seasons. So his rating should probably be up more towards at least Ken Hitchcock, but maybe not Joel Quenneville. But if you look here, the whole reason I want to say this spiel, if you look here, he is the lowest rated Stanley Cup champion. But if you notice here, this is the top half, and all the top half is all Stanley Cup championship coaches. The bottom half here, none of these dudes won Stanley Cup championships as far as I know that I've researched. And that's all the way at the bottom there with Ted Nolan and Tony Granato. So it kind of answers the question, like, is a great coach like a really good coach, or is a great coach just benefiting off of good players? And I feel like this spreadsheet kind of answers that, and the answer is the coach is a great coach because they are like a good coach. It's not just because they have a great roster. So now we're going to go into each individual NHL team and show off the ratings and see if you're a fan with the eye test that it correlates with it and is fair. Okay, so the Anaheim Ducks, they're rebuilding. I believe this is year 2 for Greg Cronin. I think that's how you pronounce his name. But as you see here, the offense is not good. The defense is decent, and that's about it for the rest of it. So power play, penalty kill, not that great. Teaching, I don't know, teaching wise, if it's going to be accurate enough, but this is a very small sample size, as well as influence not being, amazing. It's at average, C+. So I'm sorry, C is average, not C+. So my scale is 12 is an A+, 0 is an F, and 5 is a C. But the Ducks are rebuilding. So the Ducks are, like I said in my roster video, if you watch that one for NHL 25 using NHL 24, The Ducks are going to be very good in like 2 years or so. They're going to be very, like, Dostal is already playing out of his mind this year. He's going to be their guy going forward, and he's going to be playing great, presumably, in the future for the Ducks. So Ducks fans, just need to relax. I think they're going to be good soon. Boston fans are calling for the head of Jim Montgomery, and Jim Montgomery, as you see, is a tier 2 coach. He is very good. If they get rid of Jim Montgomery, it might be the Bruce Cassidy situation where he goes to another team and wins the Stanley Cup. Like, this guy is unbelievable. He has a freaking amazing defense, very good penalty kill. He's a good teacher and he has good influence. The only thing he needs to improve on is the power play is not that great. The offense is very good, but it could be better. But this is a great coach. Like, I don't think the Boston Bruins should get rid of him. I don't think that also the fans should call for the head of their general manager. I believe his name is Don Sweeney off the top of my head. They just need to be patient. It's only, what, 15, 16, 20 games so far in the season. Just let things kind of play out. If, you know, you're a Boston Bruins fan, you like the Red Sox, baseball is very ebbs and flows, ups and downs. That's how sports is. So just relax, okay? Buffalo going to Lindy Ruff. Lindy Ruff also is a old school coach. He's been around for a long time. He's 64 years old. Lindy Ruff almost won a Stanley Cup, I believe, in like 99. Was he the Sabres coach then? Really great coach. He's bounced around a lot. He's been with the Devils. I think he's with the Stars as well. He's had some great seasons, had some not so great seasons, but this is his overall career since 2007. Pretty good offense. Could be a little bit better, but not the greatest. His defense kind of sucks. Power play kind of is Penalty kill, B-. Teaching influence. So Lindy Ruff is a dude who's still chasing that ring. He might get it. Right now with Buffalo, they're still on the cusp of like making the playoffs, so they're not there yet, but they have a lot of young, strong pieces. And I really like the stability that Lindy Ruff brings. And I like it when organizations, we'll talk about this later with Pittsburgh and stuff. I like it when they have stability when it comes to coaching. Like, say with the Predators, Barry Trotz is coach for a long time. You know what you're getting, and you can get players to buy in and work with that scheme. So Lindy Ruff with Buffalo come back. That's a feel-good story. Calgary with Ryan Huska. Calgary is an interesting mix because Calgary is like good, but like not good. They're like on the cusp, like not on the cusp. They want to sell off pieces. They have a really great young goaltender in Dustin Wolf so that they can build around that foundation, but they're in an interesting boat, an interesting mix. The best thing about Huska is his penalty kill. He is a B+, which is really good, but he's a tier 5 coach. He's average. And I would maybe even say that the Flames are kind of average right now too. So not like the next one, which is Rod Brind'Amour. This guy is unbelievable. This guy brings stability. And I will say that most of the really good coaches in the NHL, you're going to have to see like this, like, except Dan Bilesma, you're going to see like a little bit of a crappy season for like maybe the first year or two. And then they're just going to explode. And then they're mostly just going to like plateau and they're just going to stay the same. They're going to be just absolutely excellent and they'll barely fall off. But once some of the great coaches barely fall off, they get fired. And like, I'm trying to think of off the top of my head, like who is like that? Maybe like a Todd McClellan, that sort of deal. I'll probably remember when I go down the list here. But there's been a lot of great coaches, like say also in the past too, like maybe like Bruce Boudreau. They've just been really good, but they have like one bad season. And then the GM or team just media calls for their heads and then they go and then they find somebody else and it's almost the same exact result. So Rod Brind'Amour is one of those great coaches where maybe a crappy season or two like Jared Bednar, and then they just like John Cooper as well. They just boom, they just skyrocket, and the skyrocket just keeps going. Like they're just fantastic. This guy Rod Brind'Amour does everything. Former player, maybe a little bit of Dan Campbell, Detroit Lions vibes. I don't know if you can see my Dan Campbell sign helmet over there, but the players buy in, they love him. Has not won a Stanley Cup championship yet as a coach, but he is just absolutely phenomenal. He does everything right. A great offense, better defense, unbelievable penalty kill, and power plays, pretty good. Not amazing, but and apparently a fantastic teacher. I'm not going to say which statistics I use for teaching and influence, but once again, like I said, if you're a pro watching or a former pro and you played for Rod Brind'Amour and you think these should be flipped, let me know in the comments below, but I don't think you'll be watching. The Chicago Blackhawks are obviously rebuilding. Luke Richardson's been the coach for like a couple years now, I want to say. And the Blackhawks haven't been very good. One thing he is above average at is penalty kill, but the rest of it not so good, especially the offense. And these have been curved up a little bit because I've been a little bit harsh when it comes to some of the grades like offense and defense. One I'm not really harsh at is the influence one. But the rest of these I can be pretty aggressive when it comes to rating them because I wanted a range just like I have with my skaters and goalies. So I want to see a difference between like the good coaches and the bad coaches. Fantastic coach, Jared Bednar. Like I said, the first season or two, maybe even like losing seasons, and then just skyrockets, and then just boom, like absolutely incredible coach. This guy pretty much does everything. Really great offense. He is apparently a defenseman type of coach, which you won't think that because Colorado has a very high-powered offense and just absolutely amazing pieces, talent, everything. But the Colorado Avalanche have Cale Makar, they have Devon Toews, and like they have so many like really great defensemen. So I would say defenseman teaching specialty is pretty fair for Jared Bednar, but of course it could be changed. But he pretty much does everything. B's and the rest of them except teaching is an A-. Won a Stanley Cup championship in 2022. I think that was the year. Dean Evason. I really like the Columbus Blue Jackets. I really want them to succeed, and I feel like Dean is the guy to do that. He had some really great years with the Wild. Fell off a little bit, got canned. Now he's the Blue Jackets coach. Good coaching decision and good hire, I feel like, for them. But over his career so far, his defense is above average, same with the power play. The rest of it's pretty good, though. His offense is pretty good. And if you watch the way that the Blue Jackets this year, they break out, it's just like so much better than it was last year. So they're a young and upcoming team, and this is, I think, a really good coach to do that with a rebuild, get the young kids going. They have a lot of speed, they have a lot of talent if you watch them, and I feel like their talents are being more exploited by Dean. They're slumping a little bit right now, but at the beginning of the season, they're doing really well. So hopefully they can be above their projection and maybe be above 500 this year, but let's see. Pierre Dubois actually has been coaching for longer than I remember. He was coaching the Stars, the Knights, the Devils, and Florida. I forgot about Florida completely. But he's been around for a good amount of time, even though he's only 56 years old. It's kind of like middle of the age for, or even youngish for coaches. But Pierre Dubois has been a pretty dang good coach, still chasing the ring. The best thing he is at is the penalty kill, as well as teaching. He could work on his power play, but usually like power plays and penalty kills, like that's kind of like deferred to these assistants. They're kind of in charge of those things. So not necessarily on him, but still a good coach. And Dallas is absolutely stacked, and they could win it this year. They could have won it last year. So he's like always on the cusp, Dubois, like of winning, but we'll see if he wins it this year. Derek Ladonde grew for the Detroit Red Wings. I don't know what to think of Grew. I feel like he's a good guy. But you see here, like the team, I feel like should be better than they are. Maybe this year they're like 500-ish, and last year they were almost like 500, a little bit above 500. Team has a lot of talent on it, defensively and offensively. Defensively, maybe outside of like Sider and a couple like Evanson and stuff. Probably could use some work. Defense is a C average. Power play decent at a B. Influence is a B. I feel like Eisman really wants to percolate the young talent and doesn't want them to like come up, lose their confidence, etc., etc. So maybe that's a thing, but the Red Wings I feel like should really be like taking off right now. They're not, and I don't really think it's Grew's fault, but I wonder what happens. I think Eisman's really patient and he's just going to let it ride out. So I think the media and the fans need to chill out, mostly the fans. So this should be okay. The Edmonton Oilers last year fired Jay Woodcroft, and they bring in Connor McDavid's old Erie Otters coach. Go Otters! I'm an Otters fan. Chris Nelblock, and they had a fantastic first year. Let me tell you, this second year here, rough start, but they're starting to turn on the Jets a little bit. Connor McDavid was injured, but now he's back. But they were still like losing with him earlier. But he fell to earth, Nelblock, because I do include like the 15-ish mark here for these stats. If it wasn't, he would be like just out the roof with everything being like A's and A pluses. But his offense, obviously being a B plus, defense is pretty good still. Power play not as good as Jay Woodcroft's, but penalty kill average could be better. Then again, you know, I think they got rid of a lot of defensive-ish defensemen. They're going for really like an offensive push, so penalty kill not being that great. Makes more sense. They really wanted more offense this offseason by getting like Arvidsson, Skinner, so instead of getting more of those grinders. But still a really good coach. I'm not sure if he was there when they won the championship in 2017. Was it 2017 with Strome? That might have been. But obviously a great coach. Players love him. He could literally get a ring within his like second year of NHL coaching as a head coach. Not as assistant, because he was an assistant for a little bit. But it also, if you want to quickly look at the tiers here for the free agents, and you can see some of the names here pop out. Some of them are very surprising, like Bruce Boudreau, Alain Vigneault. Those guys didn't win cups, but like Vigneault's Oh my gosh, that car is so loud. That is unnecessary. Vigneault's 2011 Canucks were like unbelievable, but they ran into the Boston Bruins and they were really good that year too. But I feel like the Canucks should have won that series. But that's why you play the game. But I'm very surprised he didn't get a cup. Bruce Boudreau didn't get a cup. I think Bruce Boudreau won a championship at every level, and Vigneault won one in the Q, a championship. So it sucks Bruce never got it, and he's 69 years old, so he's probably like done. When you get to about 70 when you're a coach, pretty much done-ish. I'm sorry Gerard Gallant didn't get a job. He's very good, and same with Jay Woodcroft. It's very interesting, but so anyways, let's just continue down the free agent list. You see there's a ton of them here. Keep going, and we are going to go to Paul Maurice, who I did not know was around for a very long time, like really long. Like he was the coach of the Jets. I'm just going to look up how many dang teams this guy's coached. He has been around for a long time. He's been coaching since '88 in the O. And he has been a head coach of the Whalers, the Hurricanes, the Leafs, the Hurricanes, the Jets, and then now the Florida Panthers. He has won the championship, and now the Florida Panthers are still, even though they lost some pieces this offseason, the number 2 team, I believe, in the NHL. They are rolling. This guy is an unbelievable coach. His thing is a teacher, and right now I got my teaching at B+. But he has been around for a long time. So this is, an encapsulation of everything of his career since '07. But his best thing he is at besides teaching is offense. His defense is above average. His power play pretty good. Penalty kill, But a very good coach, and has a Stanley Cup championship last year. On to the LA Kings, going with Jim Hiller going forward instead of Todd McClellan. Very good at defense, pretty good influence, above average teaching, very good, I guess, not great. Better penalty kill than power play. And the offense kind of, the Kings have always been like not like a offensive prowess. They've always been like a defensive prowess. So that makes more sense. On to John Hines, who's had a very long career as well. Even though he's only 49 years old, he's coached so many teams, Devils, Preds, Wild. He is tier 4, which is above average coach. He's very like old school. He loves the physicality. Even though physical is not on here, it's balanced. He is very good at defense, average offense, above average power play. Penalty kill is pretty good, and influence pretty good. On to Martin St. Louis and the Montreal Canadiens, who are kind of like rebuilding. They have a good coach to be in a rebuild with. Martin St. Louis, more of a player's coach, I assume. Obviously, I don't play for him, I don't know. But influence being the best thing at B-. His defense is well below average at a D. But they don't really have too many pieces there. They're trying to figure out with the goaltending what they're going to do moving forward. It's supposed to be like, I think Primo, then now, I think his last name is Primo, Caden Primo. And then Montembeault, it's kind of like the guy, but he had a really great start to the season, I think this year or last year, but now he's kind of falling back to earth. But they have some good offensive pieces, defensive pieces kind of, but like they're starting to like kind of figure it out. And it's going to be like probably a couple more years till they get better. But Marty St. Louis is only 49. He probably can coach for another 15 years. So like this is a very early in his coaching career, being at a tier 6, which is a level 5 coach, is just an average coach. But he'll get better, I think, over time as the Canadiens acquire more pieces for their roster. Andrew Brunette is a very interesting fellow. He is at a tier 3 and a very good coach at a B. This is including this year, which they had a really rough start. And they continue to have kind of a roughish start, but last year he was really good. I think he took over Quinville for Florida like a couple years ago before becoming an assistant with the Devils. He's only 51 years old, has a really good offense. The defense is penalty kill and power play pretty good, teaching and influence pretty good. If they can get through the storm of this rough season, if they just go on a run, I think the Predators are kind of like a slow starting team, especially Saros. Once Saros like gets some games under him, he starts catching fire. Like he is like literally unstoppable. He's the best goalie in the league. You kind of have to ride that wave. So I think if they can just get through the storm of the beginning of the season, Barry Trotz is the GM. He knows coaching, he knows players, he knows the game. I feel like he knows this. So I think he's going to maybe just like let it ride. I don't think he's going to fire Brunette, and I don't think he should, because I think Brunette's a pretty good coach. So we'll see what they do. It's still rather early. Sheldon Keefe for the Devils. I put my standings on Twitter, I think my predictions, with all my analytics and stuff of like who's gonna finish first, second, third, and whatever in the standings. And I had the Devils at like, I think Stanley Cup champion top 5 or so. I think they're a third, and I even thought to myself like that's kind of high, but they have a lot of good pieces. They're developing, and they have a great coach. The coach was not part of those analytics, but Sheldon Keefe is one of those dudes that is like a Dan Bylsma that kind of came on the scene, absolutely unbelievable, rocket right out of the gate. Didn't have like a couple of middling seasons or like slow starts like John Cooper, but this dude was just like boom, he's an absolutely unbelievable coach. Players respond to him, but he didn't win the championship in Toronto, so he gets canned. Now he's with the Devils. He could possibly win a championship with the Devils. It'd be absolutely crazy, but he is an amazing offensive coach, including the Devils now. He's at a B rating for defense, which the Leafs do not really have a great defensive core. They're definitely offensive based. Also, they didn't really know what the hell they're doing goaltending wise. Now they have a pretty good starting goaltender, Stolarz, who has been a backup for a long time. So we'll see how well he continues to play, but he's playing as like a top 10 goalie in the league right now. But his defensive Keefes is still a B. Power play really good, A-, obviously most of it with the Leafs. Penalty kill, pretty good considering. And the teaching and influence, very good. So he's been on some really great teams, coached some really great players. I think he won a championship with the Marlies before he got the job with the Leafs. I'm not entirely sure, but that's just off the top of my head. I feel like the Leafs letting him go was stupid as a scapegoat. So I think it was Dubas, who we'll talk about here in a second. So Patrick Roy, obviously one of the greatest goalies of all time. If you're a fan of his, you'll probably say he is the greatest goalie of all time, and I won't argue that because he's amazing. But as a coach, he was kind of, average with the Avalanche. He's had some bad seasons, had a couple good seasons. Hired by Lou Lamb with the Islanders last year. I think they made the playoffs. Or they didn't make the playoffs, or they got booted, or I don't remember. But came on late last year. As you see here with these grades, C, C+, C, B+, he has been a little bit above average as a coach, which is the complete opposite of him as a goaltender, because absolutely unbelievable goaltender. But I think he also coached in the queue in between the Avalanche and the Islanders. I don't know if he won a championship or anything, but he was pretty fiery. If you go on YouTube, you can find some him fighting other coaches or whatnot, but he was pretty aggressive when he was a player too. If he's been some goalie fights with the Detroit Red Wings. So interesting to see like how the Islanders shape out with him as the coach, because the Islanders are kind of like good, but like I don't know if they want a championship good. So interested in seeing what they go look like going forward. Pierre Laviolette, unbelievable coach. He's a tier 3, which is a B. So he's a good coach, not an amazing one. He's been on so many freaking teams as a coach. Flyers, like so many different ones. Rangers now, pretty good. Can he take the Rangers to Promised Land? He's already been to it, so I don't see why not. They have a lot of great pieces there. I think they're in my top 10 for Cup contenders. They were last year. I think they were my second pick to win the Cup, but they didn't do it. I picked Vegas to win because they were stacked, and they had Tomas Hertl, but they lost to the Stars. So the only thing I think a lot of it like work on is his power play. Everything else is pretty dang good. So Rangers have a good shot this year. Ottawa Senators, Travis Green. I think Travis Green's been around for longer than I thought, but he is a tier 5, which is above average by one level coach. Ottawa this year, pretty good-ish. Last year, pretty good-ish, but like before that, they're kind of like middling. They could make the playoffs. We'll see, but Green needs to improve on his defense. His teaching is kind of and his offense is above average, but his special teams are pretty good. His influence is pretty good too. So a reflection of the team maybe, but we'll see how well they do. They have some really great young pieces. On to John Tortorella, one of my favorite coaches. Coaches now for the Philadelphia Flyers, kind of like one of those middling teams, but like, they're probably not making the playoffs and they're looking to sell some of their pieces, but once again does not include the 2004 championship season as well as other really great runs with the Lightning. So he probably should be at like a level maybe 2 or 3, but he is right now a pretty good coach at a level 7, B-. So since 2007, he can probably improve on his offense. Defense really good. Special teams equate out to about even, C- and a B+, and then his teaching and influence at a B and a B-. So one of those old school coaches has adapted his style to the modern game stuff, yelling at players and abusing them like other coaches have that have gotten fired and have not gotten rehired by anybody. Torts has done a really good job of sticking up for his guys, and I really like what he did with the Gaudreau family. He brought out Johnny and Matthew's dad to one of their practices because they're from like the Philly, Jersey, or South Jersey area, so it's really nice of him. I love John Tortorella. Mike Sullivan, fantastic coach, won 2 cups with the Penguins. He is pretty much great at a lot of things, best at teaching offense. Defense pretty good, special teams good, not great, and influence good. And I think Penn's brass came out, and so maybe even like some insiders in media, like Elliot Friedman or whoever, they said that they really like Mike Sullivan. He has a really great relationship with Sidney Crosby. So it's like that old adage of like, if you have a great coach, do you go with the great coach as your franchise? Or if you have a young player that is a fantastic talent, but he's got maybe some attitude problems, do you go with that young player and then get rid of the coach? With this, luckily you have both. The player is fantastic and the coach is fantastic, and they work fantastically well together. Sometimes there's instances, I think it's mostly like in football, you have like a diva player and then maybe the diva coach, maybe even the New England Patriots. So the Patriots end up choosing to get rid of Tom Brady and keep Bill Belichick for like another couple of years. They didn't really do anything with Bill Belichick. Tom Brady goes on to win a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. So in that instance, a little bit reversed, which I would most likely go with the stability of the coach versus the diva player that kind of needs to change their ways. But if that player has won championships like Tom Brady has, that's a different situation. But if the player is like not, rather young, needs to develop as a person, needs to be more selfless, then I would always stick with the coach there. But the Pittsburgh Penguins are in an interesting bind. I had them making the playoffs. They're not doing so well so far this season, and I guess they're looking to acquire people or sell off people. And I think it's honestly on Kyle Dubas going to get Erik Karlsson, and then they're getting rid of Getzel, who honestly, I had my analytics. There's a window there where Getzel was better than Crosby, just by a hair. But Crosby obviously still great. But Getzel is just that much amazing. And they ship him off to Carolina for Michael Bunting, who Bunting was with the Leafs when Dubas was with the Leafs. So I don't know if that's like an old boys club type deal. But Michael Bunting's still good, but he's not as good as Jake Guentzel. Like Jake Guentzel's unbelievable. So talented when healthy. So getting rid of him was a loss. On to the San Jose Sharks. Actually seeing this made me think of redoing the whole ratings and the roster. Ryan Worofsky, did he win a AHL championship? I think he did. Yes, he won one with the Wolves. So he was hired on as an assistant for the Sharks the past 2 years. Now the Sharks are not supposed to be like amazing. They are rebuilding still. There's a huge window when they had Todd McClellan, and I don't know how the hell they didn't win a Stanley Cup championship in like the late 2000s, early 2010s. They were so stacked. They were winning like 50 games. Like it was insane. They were so good. But McClellan ended up getting fired. Dubois took them to the finals. They lost in the finals to the Penguins. But now they're not supposed to be good. They're rebuilding a lot and getting a lot of pieces, thanks to new GM Mike Greer. But so far this season, I think this is his first year, like I just showed. His penalty kill is very good, and his defense is a little bit below average, but everything else kind of stinks. Also, I think Celebrini's like not in the roster. He's been injured a lot, and I think I just read today that they're going to look at taking Will Smith and then getting him to the development team when they have their tournament or whatever. Dan Bylsma is a freaking unicorn. I've never seen a dude off the top of my head that has been absolutely amazing out of the gate, and he was still great with Pittsburgh. But then I think Pittsburgh fired him or he quit, and they went with someone else. Maybe it was Mike Sullivan then. But Dan Bylsma wins a championship, I believe, his first year after they fired, was it Mike Johnston of the Penguins? Go BG alum, Dan Bylsma. Absolutely incredible at offense, really good. Also a teacher, and the rest of them are pretty dang good ratings. He's a tier 2. So that's one of the best coaches, not the best, but one of the best. Great hire by Seattle. Seattle's not doing that well so far this year. They kind of started crappy, peaked, made the playoffs, and then now they're kind of like falling a little bit, which is interesting. But Bylsma is the guy. If you want to, he's only 54. I just noticed that. Wow, that's quite youngish. So he probably has another 10, 15 years of coaching if he wants to. But if the next couple years Seattle wants to keep him around, which I hope they do, I feel like they will be successful. They have some great young talent. They have some pretty good veterans. So it's an interesting mix. They're on the cusp. They could make it. They couldn't make it. But Bylsma is the guy for sure. Drew Bannister, I think, was the guy that took over after they fired Berube. As you see, tier 4, level 7. So it's like a couple levels above average, as I can't talk at all. He's a average offense, defense really good, not amazing. Penalty kill really good, not amazing. And his teaching is not the greatest, as well as power play and defense being B+. So he reflects the Blues. The Blues are kind of like goodish, but like not good enough. So I feel like that is pretty much leveling with their coaching. John Cooper, absolutely amazing coach, said that he was going to write a top 5 coaches book and he wanted to know who the other 4 were. incredible. He's one of those guys that start off kind of crappy for like a season or two and then skyrocket has been absolutely amazing. This year kind of 500-ish, but the Lightning have had to get rid of like a good piece like every year because they just had too many people. There's way too stacked a roster thanks to Steve Eisman drafting pretty damn well. But the Lightning, I think, are making the playoffs for me this year. Not going to be amazing, but you know, they lose their heart, their captain Stamkos, and then they replace him with Gensel. Very harsh business decision, but if you had to replace Stamkos, Gensel is a very good replacement. But if you see here, Cooper, very good offense, pretty good defense, but not as great as the offense. Power play and penalty kill, pretty decent, and a really great teacher. So offensive-minded coach, fantastic talent, and he says he's one of the best coaches of all time. Maybe, but definitely one of the best coaches in the modern age. Craig Berube, hired this year for the Toronto Maple Leafs. More of an old school coach, very physical, very good at pretty much everything across the board, almost being even. He really doesn't have to improve on anything except for maybe just like pushing a little bit and getting to that next level, because right now he's a B, which is a tier 3. Pretty good. Obviously, they went on an incredible run with the Blues for a reason. He changed it around. Good voice in the locker room. So the Leafs are looking to get that guy going, and maybe it can change up their culture. So we'll see if he can win the cup this year with the Leafs. They still have a lot of talent. Tavares is still there. Who knows if he'll be there next year, or maybe he'll take a cheaper deal. But they can't afford to keep their core 4 much longer because there's just so much money tied up within all those guys, and you have to kind of get them going in the playoffs. But we'll see how well they can do defensively now that they have a goaltender. We'll see where it goes. For the Utah Hockey Club, with the probably presumably named Yeti, Andre Turgenev, I don't know how to pronounce your name, bud, but he's been the Coyotes coach for a long time. I did not know this, and they weren't supposed to be amazing, but they have a lot of good young talent, like Clayton Keller and stuff. They have some really good talent this year. You know, this offseason they got a bunch of defensemen to kind of like boost that core up. Some of them are injured right now. I think Durzee's out, but you know, Utah should be goodish, not amazing. As you see, Andre's stats here, everything is average except influence is above average, and his defense kind of stinks. But boom, this year that should probably go up to maybe C minus C. Let's see how well they do defensively with those new acquisitions. Then we'll see how good of a coach Andre is. If that stays the same, then Rick Tocchet with the Vancouver Canucks. I think they got rid of Bruce Boudreau and they went with Tocchet, and then I think they made the playoffs by going to Tocchet. But Tocchet also last year full year, and this year second full year with the Canucks. He's been around for a decent amount of time. He's coached with the Coyotes, which he played for. 60 years old, physical coach, pretty much average at all of these things. This is a career also, not just for the Canucks. Pretty good penalty kill though, pretty good teaching and influence. So he is a tier 4. He is 2 tiers above average. Did the Canucks win a Stanley Cup with Rick Tocchet? Maybe. I would think he was a good coach. We'll see if this B- goes up to a B or B+, if so. Bruce Cassidy, the Boston Bruins. I'm gonna say something about Boston right now. The Boston Bruins have been blessed with so many freaking great coaches. They go from like Claude Julien, who won the Stanley Cup for them in 2011, and I think it went to Bruce Cassidy right after, who couldn't get it done, but he was just stable as hell. Like, he was just amazing. They won 40, 50 games every year. Same with almost Claude Julien. He fell off a little bit at the end, but you know, Claude Julien, great coach. Bruce Cassidy, great coach. Jim Montgomery, great coach. So whoever's making the decisions, I don't know if it's Don Sweeney or somebody before him. I don't know how long Don Sweeney's been the GM for, but whoever's making the decisions, the Boston brass, the owner, whoever, to hire really great coaches, they're doing a fantastic job. Boston fans are really blessed. They've been good for 10, 15 years. You guys have to just relax on the complaining. Bruce Cassidy was fantastic. Getting rid of him was a mistake because he won the championship with the Vegas Golden Knights. He is more of an old schoolish coach, so he'll kind of get in your face if he wants to. But defensive coach, he does pretty much everything great. Great offense, great defense. I think I already talked about this, so I don't really repeat myself, but can improve on maybe the power play. That's about it. He is fantastic. One of the best coaches in the NHL. On to Spencer Carberry, probably pronounced his name wrong. The Capitals are well coached this year, surprisingly. They had a lot of new, interesting offseason acquisitions. Andrew Mangiapane is an analytical darling. Already said this in my roster video. That was a good pickup. Dylan Strome is starting to become better. He's one of the best players in this. I think he's like 13th best center in the league for ESPN fantasy points. He's doing really well, and of course Ovechkin's still scoring goals. He could make it. He could beat Gretzky's record. So getting Jacob Chikrin was an interesting choice. He's kind of like fallen off, but maybe he's resurging. He's getting better this year. I don't know. But you look here for Spencer. The thing he's really great at is penalty kill, and he's got a pretty good influence. His power play is not that great, which is surprising because Ovechkin loves the power play. It's actually a little bit below average, but offense and defense pretty good. And this is a pretty good coach. This is a level 3, so he's 3 tiers above average, and that's actually not a bad decision. I think he's been coaching for a couple years now with the Washington Capitals. Could the Caps win the Stanley Cup this year? I don't think so, but not a bad coach to have in your last couple of years for Ovechkin. And our last guy, Scott Arno, was coaching a couple years ago. I forget with who. Who was it with? Let's look it up. The Blue Jackets in 2011 and 2012. Look at that. I thought he was first time coach, but he's not. But 62 years old, offensive minded. He is a level 4. He can improve on his defense. His offense pretty good, and his teaching and influence pretty good, but his special teams not the best. C+ and C for those. So that does my NHL 25 custom coaches roster. Hopefully you enjoyed the vid, and there's more range and ratings to the coaches. We can't edit them just yet. Hopefully in the future we can. EA, please listen to us. It'd be really cool. So take care, everybody. Godspeed. See you in the next one.